Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to Babeinlibrary. It's your girl Lisa, and today you're going to join me at the St. Louis Teen Book Festival. Now, before going to the festival, I do have a little bit of preliminary reading to do because there's so many authors that I want to see. One particular author is someone that I have been dying to meet because I have read majority of her backlist, excluding her debut novel, which is what I'll be reading today before going to the festival. So you'll see a little bit of reading. I'll talk about one of her books in particular, and then we'll jump into the actual festival. Before I do that, I just want to talk about some of the authors that are going to be there. First being Ladarian Williams. Now, Ladarian wrote Blood at the Root, which I did read in November, and let me tell you, it was good vibes. Secondly, Chloe Gong is going to be there. I read These Violent Delights from her a few years back. I decided not to continue with the series just because Romeo and Juliet Shakespeare is just not my thing, but I'm sure that there's something else that Chloe is going to provide that I will want to read. Also, F.T. Lukens, who wrote So This Is Ever After, one of the books that is on my TBR, will be seeing her. Lamar Giles, who has Not So Pure and Simple. Jennifer Lynn Barnes, who we all know from The Inheritance Game, very much giving Vampire Diary vibes, and Knives Out. Loved that book. Now, you also have Aiden Thomas, who's pretty much the headliner for this, who produced Cemetery Boys. And then you're going to see that Naima Forna is going to be there. I have not read Gilded Ones, but this one's everyone's favorite. I would read this for a particular vlog, if not for the fact that your girl Tiffany D Jackson was going to be there. Now, Tiffany D Jackson is the author that I'll be reading from in this particular video. I have already read Monday's Not Coming, loved it, exceptional reading choice. I have also read Grown, which was the first book that I started with her. I also have read The Weight in Blood, and I believe Purple Smoke or something of that nature. However, the book that I have been holding off on, and it's actually time to read, is her debut novel, Allegedly. I am just shy of 50% of reading this book, and let me tell you all, it's heavy. Like, Tiffany came on the scene slinging. This debut novel is like unlike anything I have ever read. It is truly the heaviest book one of the heaviest books that I've read this year, but I'm hoping it has a rewarding payoff at the end, meaning that I'm looking for revenge, I'm looking for justice, and I'm looking for some people to go down. However, I have heard mixed feelings about the ending, meaning that it had wrapped up very quickly, which is what happened with her White Smoke book. And so I'm a little bit nervous about that. But this one is the story of Mary. Mary, at the time we are reading this, is 16, and she is pregnant. And that's important to know because Mary was actually sent to baby jail for allegedly killing a 3-month-old baby when she was 9. Now, that is very, very heavy to read. It is stemming from the fact that Mary was helping her mother, who I believe has some mental health issues and is kind of alluded to in this book, but we're unsure of whether Mary actually killed the child or if it was her mother. Mary is desperately trying to get her mother to tell the truth and really get exonerated for this crime because Mary is actually pregnant herself and is wanting to keep her unborn baby. However, because she was convicted of killing a child, she's not able to keep her own child. And so she's desperately trying to appeal to her mother to tell the truth of what exactly happened that night 6 years ago. What I'm liking about this debut novel from Tiffany is the fact of her storytelling. We are in present day watching Mary try to piece together what exactly happened while also fighting to become emancipated and exonerated of these crimes. However, we're getting flashbacks and glimpses into the past with that 6 years ago via newspaper clippings, recordings from interviews and articles with detectives and people in the community, really giving us an insight of the characters that were surrounded Mary and surrounding the death of Alyssa. So I'm really enjoying what Tiffany is doing with this writing style, and I'm hopeful that we will get to see and uncover the truth of what actually happened to Alyssa and be able to see Mary released. Now, as I sit here and I tell you that, I realize that I'm reading Tiffany D Jackson, and I just said I want to see Mary released, But Tiffany is the type of author who will write it so that the entire time we believe that Mary is innocent, and actually the whole time she's been guilty. And so I don't want to have to eat crow at the end of this video, but we will see how it goes once I finish. Okay, I am back and I have since finished Allegedly, as well as I have since went to the St. Louis Teen Book Festival, and there I brought back 2 bags. One I brought with me for all the books I had to get signed, and another with a set of books that they allowed us to walk away with for free. So before I get started, I want you to know I will be hauling those books in there. I will show you some clips of the event, but I still want to wrap up Allegedly because Tiffany blew my mind. Again, this is her debut novel. When I tell you that she came out the gate bussin', this is the one that is going to live rent-free in my mind. Have you ever read a story where you're like, the main character can't get any relief? Like, it was hit after hit after hit. Like, Mary came out like she had fought Mike Tyson. And I mean fighting Mike Tyson in his prime, not necessarily the Logan Paul fight. Because Mary went through every single thing in this book. Like, I don't think there was anything traumatic that she could go through left in the book except a miscarriage, and we did not need that for Mary. So what I will say is Tiffany is the queen of making you second guess yourself. Like, psychologically, she is in your brain and she is rooting in there and moving things around. She has you so confused, so twisted that you're like, I don't know what's real. Like, for example, I can't tell you if Ted was gaslighting her or not. Like, when I read it, I was like, ooh, he dirty. And then he comes back around and boomerangs, and I'm like, nah, he 100. Maybe his thought process of how he needed to go about getting the money for y'all was wrong. Or was he really doing the things that he was doing behind your backs and he was just telling you that? Again, can't really tell you what's going on. Sarah, aka New Girl, baby, I didn't see that coming for a mile. When I tell you the trigger warnings and content warnings are a mile long, be careful when you read this, because I know a lot of people have animal cruelty as a content warning or trigger for them. Know that it is in here. And the way in which they went about it, I said, oh, baby, we in a home full of psychos for real, because Sister Girl was not playing. So Sarah blew my top back. Then I think about, on the flip side, there were literally 3 characters that I was like, you are the only shining light in this story. Like, everyone, and I do mean everyone in here, is trash, with the exception of Miss Cora, C.O. Winters, and Miss Claire. Now, I'm going to be honest, Miss Claire and C.O. Winters, I have been side-eyeing them this entire time, but they came out all right. Miss Cora, she never was a question for me. But that again lets you know, when there's a Black woman that's working in education, she's working the best of her ability to give you the tools that you need to succeed. If there's nobody else that is going to have your back, it's going to be a Black woman working in education. But Mary was on her own path. She was like, yeah, I appreciate you for all the things that you're doing, but I'm actually going to take a path left, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And I'm like, girl, get your GED, take the SAT, and go on about your business. But again, lo and behold, this book was a 4.75, because as I got to the end, those last 2 pages, and I do mean the last 2 pages, I was like, wait a minute, did I miss? Nah, I couldn't. It couldn't be, right? It just couldn't be. Y'all know Tiffany. She waits to the very last minute, drops the mic, and leaves you second guessing yourself, where you're like in the Twilight Zone running, being like, everything I knew was a lie. Everything that I thought was a red herring, and now I'm confused as to what actually happened. Do I need to go reread the book again? And I'm not rereading this again. This needs to be on pause, because my emotions can't handle the things that Mary went through and the way that everyone else was moving in this book. But lo and behold, Tiffany ate. She did that. I'm so glad that I read this before going to see her at the festival, because it gave me that moment where I was like, I came to her in starstruck. Like, I was like stumbling over my words. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just take a picture. Don't even worry about answering any questions, because I can't even frame my mind to talk to you right now. Please, 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 please go back and read this, because it gives you a newfound appreciation for her. Now, while I was at the signing, they had some fantastic quotes. I was only able to make it to the last panel, which was main character energy. And so it had Alexandra Bracken, it had Naima Forna, it had Tiffany D. Jackson, Chloe Gong, Makia, I think it's Nelson, I can't remember her last name, and it had Ladarian Williams, who wrote Blood at the Root. Now, this is a library copy. I did read this in November. I really enjoyed it. However, going back, I'm listening to some of the discourse that are being discussed about this book, and it did leave me to second guess it, but listening to the author, I can tell that he is very new in the writing space. Obviously, this is debut novel. However, he was really finding his craft, and I liked how he talked about the originals from the CW show really being the character that he modeled Malik after. And so it was really good to get his perspective. If you haven't checked this out and you're looking for Black boy fantasy where they are the main character, feel free to read Blood at the Root. But I'll go ahead and do a little glimpse of what they discussed in the panel before talking about the books that I picked up for free.
My main character's name is Deka. Deka is this 16-year-old girl who lives in a very patriarchal world where she believes in all the rules that she's been taught, that, you know, girls should walk slower than boys, all sorts of things. But then she finds out that she is this thing called an Alaki, which everyone thinks is a demon, because she and other girls like her are like faster and stronger than regular people. And so like now she's faced with a choice. Either she goes off to the Emperor's army to like fight monsters, or she gets executed. So of course she chooses to go off, and in doing so discovers that there's all these things about her world that she did not know that might change history as she knows it.
Hello, I'm Chloe Gong. I'm the author of These Violent Delights, and most recently, the Foul Lady Fortune duology. So the main character of Foul Heart Huntsman, which most recently came out, is Rosalind. And to give you an idea of how Rosalind was received in the original duology, when we announced the spin-off and said that Rosalind was the protagonist, I had the entirety of Stan Twitter quote tweeting me going, "No!" Which I enjoyed that, because I very much wanted everyone to hate her in the first duology and then come to love her in the spinoff, because I think there's fun in a challenge like that. I really wanted her to start out as the selfish, prickly character who you don't really understand because you've never heard from her point of view in the original duology. But now that she, spearheads her own, you suddenly go into her shoes and realize that the reason why she made such terrible decisions is because no one loved her. The duology follows her getting recruited as a spy for the nationalist government. It's 1930s Shanghai, and Rosalind is paired with a fellow spy to pretend to be a married couple, infiltrate a workplace, and figure out a conspiracy in their city, and maybe she will finally learn to love herself.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. The main character in Storm Down the Goddess is Aurora Monroe, who is Storm. And I think my favorite thing about her is, well, naturally her hair, because right now I love a flat iron. Deeply. And but the other thing, she's actually like a master like faith, so she basically is like a pickpocketer all through like Cairo, but she can also like knows how to like pick locks very well. So I always thought that was really cool, and of course when I try to do it, like it doesn't work. But it's like my favorite part of her is that she has all these like really like ugly characteristics that not many people know about from the X-Men series. So, and these are like the little secret fun things that I found out about her.
Hi, I'm Ladarian Williams. I'm the author of Blood at the Root, which is about a black kid named Malik Barron who gets accepted into a magical HBCU. He must go there to learn about his ancestral magic, all about uncovering some dark secrets surrounding his mother's mysterious disappearance. One of my favorite things about my main character, he's from a small town called Helena, Alabama. It's real. I grew up in Helena, Alabama. It's like 25 minutes outside of Birmingham. So yeah, I got to make my hometown like this ancestral magical place.
And so you literally see Deka get killed 9 times because she wanted so desperately to fit in this world. And so you see that ghost, and like that there's that moment where you're like, oh, like I want to protect this person so much in the world. And so like when she starts her villain arc, you're with her. Because like you see her like spend all this time trying to be small, trying to fit in, trying to do all these things. So when she finally like starts like getting wise and like starts picking up that sword, you're like, yes, girl, yes.
Her biggest mission and her like life's mission at this point is to get rid of whatever is cursed on her. Whatever power she has that's like blooming, she's trying to get rid of it. So she goes on this journey basically to make herself small so she can go back to where she came from. And that's one of the things that is a very good parallel for a lot of kids, specifically teenagers, who are afraid to leave what they know and what they know is not right for them, but they are meant for something much bigger. And so they have to move on. But one of the things that she just constantly comes back to is like, no, I want to be with this family, my family that has held me down all this time. I know everything that we're doing is wrong, and that, I know I deserve better. I still want to be with this family. So I guess the biggest part of her journey is kind of letting go. And every kid has that moment, even if it's a part of like, oh, I want to go to college, but my friends over here aren't going to college. Like, or if it's like, oh, I want to not do X, Y, Z, but that means I have to leave my friends behind. That is like one of the hardest journeys that every kid has had to go through. You always outgrow something that you're a part of. And then once you outgrow that and then you realize it is so hard to leave those people behind. And so I think that is the biggest parallel that I had going on when I was writing this. And I kept thinking about even my own kind of like journey of just being always just so different and knowing that, okay, I gotta leave some people behind. I'm sorry, y'all. But
like the opening line in Blood at the Root, Malik says, "Black boys like me don't have magic powers." Because as a Southern black boy who grew up in the South and reading about Percy Jackson, reading about, all the boys that didn't look like me, I adopted that mindset at a very young age that I didn't have magic powers, that I couldn't be the main character in a YA fantasy story. And so I kind of approach it, showcasing this black boy. He gets to be vulnerable, he gets to be angry, he gets to cry, he gets to have like, these range of emotions, because I feel like at a young age we weren't allowed to have that. And that innocence is stolen away from us, and we have to grow up at a very young age. And so I always see that, the white boys get to burn down the world and they still get to be seen as human. And when a black boy says something, he is held to a higher standard. And I've seen that in schools. I've experienced that in schools. I've experienced that in life, just growing up as a black man in the South. So I infuse all of that into my main character, and I say, and he gets to be the main character. He's not decentered in his own story. He is, throughout the entire journey, he learns that he is from a very powerful tribe of people who can cast spells. He learns, his family history and lineage from his grandmother, because a lot of times in the South, like a lot of young black children are raised by their grandmothers. And when that grandmother transitions, the family falls apart. And how can we how can we keep that tradition alive? So that is something that my main character is fighting for in the first book. And also, even when I was in college, like the Trayvon Martin case was happening, and I couldn't even wear a hoodie because the hoodie was criminalized. And so that's why when I got the book deal, my non-negotiable, I wanted a black boy on the cover, and two, I wanted him in a hoodie because that hoodie is his armor. And I'm making a reclamation of that hoodie and showcasing that he's standing on the same soil that his ancestors fought and bled on, and now he's their wildest dream. So.
Now, in addition to the panels and the signings, which I absolutely loved and adored, I was very grateful that the Teen Book Festival gave away free copies of books, which I think is very, very important because these are young readers that they are centering. So to make sure that they had books that were accessible to them, that were diverse and had a lot of really good discussions in them, and you'll see about some of the things that we're talking about with these books. It was, eye-opening to be able to see them experience this event. I, as an adult in the space, wanted to make sure that I didn't take up too much time with questions and with the authors because the event really wasn't catered towards me or focused on me. And so it is important for the teens to get their experience with the authors and really be enriched in this space. So I didn't take up too much time, but what I did take up is a number of these books because this isn't even half of what they had to offer. They had so many great books. I didn't get to all of them because I was late to the event, but they had things like Heartstoppers and some other books that I didn't get to, but one of the ones that I did want to make sure I picked up was by one of the authors that was there. Of course, like I said, I am a Tiffany D. Jackson stan. Now, the book that I did pick up wasn't necessarily my favorite from her, but it was one that I didn't have on my shelf, and that was White Smoke. Because she was there, I wanted to make sure I had her sign this. It is a 3/3.5. I didn't necessarily love the ending, but everything else leading up to the ending, I absolutely enjoyed. So because it was free, because she was there, and because I may want to reread it and see if it hits a little bit different later now that I know the full story, I wanted to pick it up so that I could possibly reread it. The other 5 books were by authors that were not there, which I think was really cool as well because it gives you opportunity to pick up books by authors you weren't aware of. The first one being an interesting choice for me, which is Moth Me by Amber McBride. The reason why I say that this is interesting for me is because I don't typically like books that are written in verse, but the only other book that I have written in verse is by another young adult author, and that's Elizabeth Acevedo. So keeping along with that theme, I think the people that can do it possibly the best are young adult writers because they have a nature of making it easy to digest for that audience. But Moth Me is centering a young girl whose family was killed in a car crash, and so she goes to live with her aunt. And there she meets a boy who is battling depression because he has questions about his lineage and his parents and his family. So they go on a road trip together, really searching for, information related to their roots and their ancestors. And from there, they kind of, take the time to journey and really get an understanding of who they are and where they come from. So I am hopeful that this book is going to be one that I enjoy, again, because the writing style may not necessarily be my favorite, but I'm highly interested in this. I also did pick up one of the books that I had seen circulating the book community for quite some time. It was very, very popular about a year or 2 years ago, and that's Six Crimson Crane by Elizabeth Lim. This is a story centering a girl who has magical powers that she's been trying to hide for so long until it comes to battling her stepmother. So it's like an evil stepmother trope. Her stepmother did turn her brothers into cranes, and so she is trying to get them back into their human form. I've seen a lot of really good discussions about this, and hopefully I like it because it is one that I picked up for free, and it had a lot of hype not too long ago. And then the last 2 books that I picked up both center the Tulsa Massacre. Again, it's very, very important that our young people know our history, and I'm very concerned about what's going to happen when it comes to books being banned and them not being accessible in our libraries and our school for the young folks. So I'm glad that Novel Neighbor and the St. Louis Public Library did give these away for free. Those being Blackbirds in the Sky by Brandy Colbert and Randy Pink's Angel of Greenwood. Both of these are fiction, but they center a very, very real time in 1921 where there was a thriving community of Black people that had their own businesses, they had their own commerce and way of life until there was a race riot and it was set on fire. And so I'm hopeful to read these. I have been wanting to read Randy Pink for so long. This one has been on my TBR list for years now. And so I'm so glad that these are both given away for free at this event. So that being said, that's going to wrap up my time with the St. Louis Teen Book Festival. I enjoyed myself immensely. If you would mind doing me a favor, tell me if you have any interest in any of these books. Which ones would you like to read? And if you don't want to do that, do me a favor and leave me a butterfly for Moth Me by Angela Bride. And I'll talk to you all next time. Bye.